Hi, Todd Warren here in the Forecast Center with an update on what to expect for severe weather across the Arklatex for your Saturday, as it does appear as if this could be one of the biggest outbreaks that we see across, if not the biggest outbreaks of severe weather that we see across the Arklatex this spring. Definitely the biggest that we've seen so far. You can see the latest outlook from the Storm Prediction Center here does show that we have a moderate risk for severe weather on that 1 to 5 scale. That would be a 4, jury's still out as to whether or not that could become a 5 for tomorrow, in other words, high. But more than likely, moderate high really doesn't make that much difference. We are looking at a rather significant outbreak of severe storms across the region as we move forward here through especially the afternoon hours Saturday. And I'll talk about timing, what to expect and all that coming up here in just a bit. This is what we're looking at as far as threats for tomorrow. One of the bigger threats will be damaging straight line wind in those areas where the tornado risk may not be quite as high. Basically, areas north and west of Texarkana, where it's going to be a bit cooler tomorrow. Wind will be a bigger concern, as well as the potential for some hail. The tornado risk, about as big as we get here as far as the Arklatex is concerned, as we are looking at the potential for several tornadoes and a couple of strong tornadoes possible here across the region. Another threat that eventually could develop in those areas that received all the rain last weekend is the possibility for some isolated flash flooding, as we are looking at a couple of inches of rainfall possible, and I'll have the details on that coming up here in a second as well. Meantime, here's the setup of what's going to take place. You can see in the upper levels of the atmosphere we do have this storm system. This is what I mentioned last night was over the Pacific Northwest. It's already basically just fell right into the Four Corners area of the country, and as this upper level energy begins to move towards the west, it will help to develop an area of low pressure along the front that moved through here yesterday. That front will stall as it approaches over the central sections of Louisiana, southeastern Texas, and as that system approaches, we'll see another area of low pressure rapidly develop over Texas tomorrow. It'll push a warm front northward across the Arklatex tonight and tomorrow morning, and the stage will be set with some warm and juicy air in place for those thunderstorms to fire up. Mainly during the first half of the afternoon is where our severe weather risk, or when our severe weather risk will be highest. Here's a look at Robin's Targeted Futurecast as we take you through the nighttime hours tonight. Again, look for the clouds to rapidly increase. A few scattered showers or thunderstorms will develop late tonight, basically near and north of Interstate 20. You can see by 7 a.m. tomorrow, the rain will be most widespread over southwest Arkansas, northeast Texas, southeast Oklahoma. Some of these could drop a little bit of small hail, but not much of a severe weather risk expected from this activity. As we work our way through the morning hours, notice the line, which is going to develop here late tonight to the west of Dallas and Fort Worth. By 11 a.m., it has crossed Dallas, and you can see this will pose a wind threat as it approaches the western sections of the area very late tomorrow morning into the early afternoon hours. Now, ahead of that line, what's going to happen as we head into the early afternoon, we'll see these discrete storms. In other words, these scatter storms developing out ahead of the main line. Those will pose the biggest tornado risk, and you can see those most numerous over northwest Louisiana, parts of deep east Texas, and perhaps parts of southern Arkansas to the east of Texarkana. By 2 p.m., that's when the worst of it will be in Texarkana, extending down towards the Marshall area, and you can see the back edge of this by 2 p.m. over the western sections of the area. If you live in Clarksville, Mount Pleasant, your severe weather risk is not looking quite as high, as you won't get quite as warm tomorrow, so wind and hail will be your biggest concerns for tomorrow. As we work our way through the afternoon, you can see by 6 p.m., notice the main clusters of thunderstorms have shifted to the east out of the Arklatex, so we're going to see a window basically from about noon to 3-4 o'clock where our severe weather risk will be highest across the area, especially that tornado risk. And then tomorrow evening, you can see more scattered thunderstorms trying to develop off to our west. Now, these not going to pose much of a tornado threat. Our atmosphere is going to be pretty much worked over. If anything, maybe a little bit of wind and a little bit of small hail possible. Kind of doubtful we'll see much of a severe weather risk with that tomorrow evening. And then we're pretty much done. A few scattered showers tomorrow night, and Sunday we start off with some clouds and we'll likely end with a little bit of sunshine late in the day for Sunday. All that said, let's talk about how the atmosphere is set up for the various threats that we're looking at. This is something the Futurecast points out to us as far as the potential of seeing storms rotate. And you can see what it looks like at 10 a.m. Now notice it's darkest across the north. Keep in mind that temperatures, they're going to be cooler tomorrow, so not looking at much of a tornado threat there. What I wanted to point out is how it gets worse here in the afternoon. Notice the darker reds and purples, and you can see mid-afternoon that cluster east of Texarkana from basically Willisville, Louisville, down to Magnolia, to Shreveport, down to Mansfield, perhaps even Natchitoches. This is the area where we might see perhaps a little bit better chance of a few of those stronger tornadoes develop in those discrete storms. And notice as we work our way into the latter stages of the afternoon, it looks like that potential does decrease some, and by 5 p.m. it looks like our tornado risk obviously gone, as you can see here as everything shifts, as I mentioned earlier, over towards the Mississippi into northwest Louisiana. As far as hail, not looking at big hail tomorrow, but we could see a few spots where we see up to quarter size. Take you through the morning hours. This is what Futurecast is indicating. The pink indicates where we could have some hail. What we're looking at as far as the severe hails, when we get into the blacks and especially the grays that start to show up, you can see the hail threat with some of the storms mid-afternoon entering with that line basically from DeQueen down to Mount Pleasant, and all that begins to shift more towards the east into northwest Louisiana. As again, those discrete cells also, you can see these lines here, also will pose a little bit of a hail threat with up to quarter-sized hail a possibility, and you can see that threat will decline heading into the evening hours. And again, those isolated storms that pop up in the evening, maybe a little bit of hail, but it shouldn't pose too much of a problem. Another concern will be the potential for some heavy rain across the Arklatex. You can see that Futurecast shows that where the rain is going to be more persistent longer, we will see heavier rainfall totals. You can see anywhere from 2 to over 3 inches possible across most of southwest Arkansas, northeast Texas, southeast Oklahoma, basically northern sections of the area where the storms are more scattered and it may not last as long. The rainfall totals probably in that half an inch to an inch range across northwest Louisiana and east Texas south of Interstate 20. So that's the breakdown as far as the rain potential here. And good news is we'll see this system move through. Here's the upper level low that I just pointed out at the beginning, moving across the region Saturday evening. Once that clears, dry weather for Sunday, dry weather for Monday, and then we'll see another shot for some thunderstorms by midweek next week. Notice that this upper level low, much further to the north than the system that's going to affect us tomorrow. So I don't expect that we'll see as big of a severe weather outbreak. In fact, it's quite possible we may not see any, as the storms could actually fire up and be their strongest to the east of the Arklatex late Wednesday into Thursday. So